Hello, everyone. Here's your weather hazard briefing for Tuesday, October 25th. Round one ends later this morning, and by early afternoon, we should be done. Maybe a few flurries or pockets of light snow along the divide into the afternoon, but the main event will be done. Round two for tomorrow and tomorrow night looks like, at least into the central mountains, that arrives just after midnight, very late in the evening. The Sawtooth, the eastern and southeast highlands look to be the big winners with this event. There is some snow possible for the Snake Plain, but there's also some uncertainty on just how much snow will fall in certain parts of the Snake Plain. We'll take a look at that during this briefing. Otherwise, it's breezy out there this morning in some places. It will be breezy again tomorrow, so pockets of blowing snow are possible with what is left today and also for tomorrow. Otherwise, dry weather for the end of the week. Heading into the weekend, we might see some more moisture moving back into our area. Satellite this morning, you can see we have moisture scooting in. We have quite a bit of moisture, cloud cover across the southern part of eastern Idaho, clearing out pretty quickly across the north and west from there. Maybe a few clouds heading up into the Panhandle and western Montana. Not much of an impact, maybe still some impacts this morning over around the eastern and southeastern highlands with the snow that remains and the precipitation that remains. Looking for widespread impacts for tomorrow. Some areas might see more impacts than others, but I think we will see some impacts pretty much everywhere across the area, whether it's from wind, whether it's from snow, or a combination of snow and wind. Maybe a few early morning showers over along the Wyoming border. Otherwise, like I said, we're clear. Very late on Saturday, a little bit of snow moving into the central mountains. So how are things going to progress? Let's take a look. The main band is already pushing into the eastern and southeastern highlands this morning. As we go through the rest of the morning, we have a little bit of lingering snow over along and east of I-15, basically from north of Idaho Falls over towards the south end of Island Park, down into the southeast highlands. A little bit of lingering snow down along the Utah border. That should be ending, like I said, as we get to around noon. We can't rule out a few pockets of light snow or flurries across the eastern highlands up around Island Park, mainly for this afternoon. Now we go into tonight, and you'll notice that first round moves in. It's very possible a sprinkle or a flurry develops over closer to Idaho Falls, Pocatello, Malad, but that probability is pretty low. A little bit of light snow possible up along the Montana border in the morning as well, but here comes the main push. A couple of things to notice. We're going to take this to around noon tomorrow initially. You can see kind of a decent band of precipitation developing. Now, whether this is along the front, whether this is just a pretty good switch from a mix of rain and snow to all snow, or we're going to have to start looking at the potential of a snow squall along the front tomorrow, something we'll be definitely taking a closer look at in the next 24 hours. So like I said, we get to noon. Moisture over the central mountains into the eastern highlands, not much farther to the west. Let's go ahead and take a look at the forecast through that time frame. You'll notice this morning we have that little bit of light snow over in the eastern highlands. Some wind gusts, generally 25 to 35. We've seen a few pockets of gusts closer to 40 or maybe a little bit higher in a few spots this morning. Very light snow accumulation, maybe a couple of inches over in parts of the big holes into the Tetons there in Wyoming. That's for this morning. Winds will be breezy this afternoon, but starting to wind down, and like I said, any impacts from blowing snow or even snow falling should be done. Temperatures today, there might be a couple places that hit 50, otherwise 40s in the lower elevations, 20s and 30s in the mountains. For tonight, there's that initial band of moisture moving into the central mountains overnight. Some very light accumulations. You'll notice the winds picking up ahead of this front from the South Hills, the Albion Mountains, all the way up towards the Island Park area. Some of these gusts around 20 to 30 miles per hour. Of note is going to be, at least initially, some strong downslope winds from around Burley up towards Rexburg coming over the benches there. That's going to help keep the air temperatures pretty warm overnight in these areas, and this will play into the snow accumulations in the morning, at least it looks like at this point. Going into tomorrow morning, those winds stay pretty much the same. They'll start shifting to the southwest. That kind of loses the downslope effect, but still, that's going to keep the temperatures warm in the morning. And you'll notice from around Blackfoot back towards Burley, we don't have a lot of snow accumulation in the forecast. It's either going to be a situation where we get this downslope, it's going to be rain or rain-snow mix, or it might be snowing, but it's not. It's melting as it falls. Otherwise, light accumulations, except in the Sawtooth, we're looking about 2 to 4 inches. Maybe up around Island Park and the Tetons about 1 to 3 inches. Also in the Big Holes, a couple of inches possible as well in those highland elevations. That's through tomorrow morning. I want to go back to this forecast because we're kind of having two different scenarios potentially taking place. So going into tomorrow, you'll notice as this band of moisture develops, we start to see a convergence band dropping to the south during the afternoon. And by 6 o'clock, that's potentially could be as far south as Pocatello, but definitely impacting the upper part of the plain and moving southward. This is the scenario A, we'll call it scenario A, where the main circulation with this low passes closer to the Utah border. The other scenario takes the center of the circulation, the low, up around Swan Valley over towards Jackson Pine Creek Pass. What that does, that shifts it to the north, and it's also predicting a weaker snow event for that time frame. Now, continuing with the Scenario A forecast, that drops southward tomorrow evening, and by the time we get to early Thursday morning, that's done. Even if we get the more northern track with this little wave, that's going to be done by the time we get to 6 a.m. on Thursday. So, what does all this mean? This may seem very convoluted. It does play into the forecast. For tomorrow afternoon, no matter where the circulation sets up, it's going to be pretty breezy to the west of it. We're talking gusts 30 to 40 miles per hour, maybe a little bit higher in a few spots. There's this snowfall for tomorrow afternoon based on the forecast, not the one that we showed you, but the one that's further north. This is the most likely forecast, is the snowfall staying to the north and lighter. And you'll notice very little accumulation across the Snake Plain. Up around Gilmore Summit, 1 to 3 inches. Into the Big Holes and the Tetons, we're looking about 2 to 4 inches tomorrow afternoon, 1 to 3 elsewhere. The probability of seeing higher snow amounts with that other scenario is around 25 to 35% of seeing between 1 to 2 inches, and that would include Rexburg, Idaho Falls, Blackfoot, American Falls, down towards the Portneuf Gap, along the bench areas here. So certainly something to keep an eye on. It's a low probability but a high impact event. Something will certainly be monitored to see how those trends go for tomorrow. Now, tomorrow evening, everything shifts east. It's still breezy, but the winds start to die down tomorrow evening across the region. Going back to temperatures for tomorrow, where we have those gusty winds along the benches, the interstate corridor, look at that, at or above freezing. Pretty stark difference compared to the rest of the area where it's going to be in the teens and 20s. We might eke out a few mid-40s tomorrow, but most areas will be in the low 40s in the lower elevations, 20s and 30s in the mountains. Thursday, it's going to be a cold one to start out, but that's going to allow us to warm up a couple more degrees with clear skies, a little bit drier air, and some sunshine Thursday. Same with Friday. And temperatures, finally some 50s back in the forecast as we head into Saturday. So round one ends later on today. Round two arrives late tonight, but mainly for tomorrow and tomorrow night. The Highlands being the big winner. We're going to be watching to see just how much snow falls across the Snake Plain. So if you're watching these briefings, if you're paying attention to the forecast, definitely keep an eye on how things trend over the next 24 hours. It'll be breezy everywhere, so some folks will see some blowing snow. It does look dry for Thursday and Friday and potentially part of Saturday. Have a great Tuesday. Stay safe out there, everyone.